Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I See Life, Michael Garcia here, back with Marissa Cozzolino. And I got today we have a video review to do. We want to, help agents grow, help them improve their practices, help them develop. And so today I want to cover, or we're going to cover a video that I feel has a lot of wisdom, a lot of I think it's one of the best sales videos out there, and it's honestly just a short video, and if you don't catch it, you're gonna miss it. But we want to kind of break it down that way you don't miss it, right? That way you get all the wisdom and the value from the video. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to review a video from Steve Jobs. By the way, he's one of my favorite entrepreneurs. And I'm going to start by sharing a story. And this was something that impacted me big time, right? I was new in the business. I was in my first year, and I wasn't securities licensed, and my client wanted to open up a Roth IRA. And so I was there. My mentor, I had him come out. He was securities licensed, and he said, "Okay, Michael, you take care of the insurance, and I'll take care of the Roth IRA." And so, anyways, I ended up closing them on a two-term policies because I felt that was what was right for them, for their family, for their needs, and their budget, because they didn't have much of a budget. But they really wanted permanent policies, even though to me it didn't make a lot of sense. So I really did push them in the direction of the term policies. They did do the applications, they signed, they got approved, and then they ghosted me. They never signed the policies. They never officially accepted them. And so, I was sharing with my mentor at the time, and he said, "Well, Michael," and this was probably, by the way, the best single piece of advice I've ever gotten in this industry. And he said, "Michael, it felt like you closed them, not like you helped them." And when he said it just like it dug deep. I totally got it. I understood what he was talking about because I was pushing them in a direction that I wanted them to go versus what they actually wanted, even though I didn't think it made sense to them, right? And so it kind of shifted my mindset, right? And I went from my closing ratio just jumped off the charts after that. I went in every appointment after that with, yeah, let me just be an educator. Let me start with their client experience, and let me just help them improve their position based on what they believe they need to do. Like that's what they want. And so I wanted to share that story because it was a very pivotal moment. My career changed after that piece of advice right there. So, and hopefully that will help somebody, change their career. So Marissa, have you had a chance to check out this video, or do you have anything to share maybe along those lines?
I did watch the video and like you said, like the guy's a genius. Yeah, I think we just need to watch the video.
All right, let's do
Just
it.
get right
So
into it.
perfect. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And yeah, we'll get right into this video here by Steve Jobs.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
You can please some of the people some of the time, but one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right. in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the...
I want to stop it right there because, you know, one thing, maybe you've experienced this, Marissa, but like that guy, like, you know, you're not an expert. You're like, what are you doing? And I think, you know, him taking that time to like really think through his answer. And then I think he did something really important is like, he admitted like, I'm not an expert in everything.
Right. Yep.
Right. He's like, I know my lane and this is what I'm going to talk on. There are things that other people do better. There are things that other competitors do better.
Mhm.
What were your thoughts on that?
I think, you know, I definitely agree with what you said, but I also feel as if he had his blinders on. You know, he really didn't care about the noise. I think maybe he did care about his competition, but he was very much on his own path. So I really admired that because as entrepreneurs, we have to, you know, we have to be conscious of the noise that's around us and take things in as it comes, right? Don't always take everything to heart. So I really liked how he paused too and really, you know, put out that disclaimer. He wasn't an expert at everything.
Right. And another thing is he said you can please some of the people some of the
Yep.
time. And I think when people get in business, you know, one of the things that holds them back is they're used to being people pleasers or they don't want to disappoint people or, you know, they don't want to, they're worried about what people think about them.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, even I've gotten advice like, oh, don't be you, like, don't be opinionated, don't do this. And I think some of the most polarizing people are actually people that are opinionated. And yeah, some people are going to hate them, you know, for sure. But then there's like people that really resonate with them and they really admire that they stand up for something, right? Even if a lot of people are going to be against that, the people that are with them are going to be with them, you know, and I think in abundance. So there's, hey, if maybe only half the people are going to be with you because of something that you know you agree on or you stand for. But guess what? There's 7 billion people in the world, right? It's like
Exactly.
you know, so if the 3.5 billion are with you and 3.5 are against you, that's still a lot of volume, a lot of people, right?
Right.
So it's like, no, just I truly believe that. Just stand up for what you believe in. Don't don't lose yourself.
Yes.
And I think that authenticity will make you relevant. I think it'll make you like people will resonate with you, and it won't be everybody that resonates with you, but the right people will. And I think that was another thing that changed for me was I stopped thinking that everybody was my client, and I realized that I don't even want everybody as my client. Like
Yeah.
my clients will be there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Scar tissue to prove it, and I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that. And I think that's the right path to take. I remember with the laser writer, we built the world's first small laser printers, you know, and there was awesome technology in that box. We had the first Canon laser printing, cheap laser printing engine in the world, in the United States here at Apple. We had a very wonderful printer controller that we designed. We had Adobe's PostScript software in there. We had AppleTalk in there. Just awesome technology in the box. And I remember seeing the first printout come out of it, and just picking it up and looking at it and thinking, you know, we can sell this. Because you don't have to know anything about what's in that box. All we have to do is hold this up and go, do you want this? And if you can remember back to 1984, before laser printers, it was pretty startling to see that. People went, whoa, yes. And
All I can say is, wow. I think that right there, I don't know about you, Marissa, but that right there is everything. I think he hit the head on the nail. In our industry, we can do a lot of great things, you know, for people, help them financially. But I think what happens a lot is he's explaining this box, right? And he's like, there's all this technology in the box. And let's face it, the client, the people that buy that box, they don't even know how that technology works, right? But he's saying, hey, this picture, like, we can sell this, right? And it's like the whole idea of when somebody goes to buy a hammer, it's not because they want a hammer, it's because they want a nail in the wall, right?
Right.
They want to hang up a picture. And so it's kind of back to that idea. And I don't know about you, maybe you've made this mistake, Marissa, but maybe you see it amongst other agents. But how many people get caught up in, and not that it's not important, like the box has to work, right? We want to make sure the box works in order to print out that picture. But how many people do you just get caught up on like very small, minor details, you know, product training where they're not taking any action, they're not talking to people, they're not focused on the client, the end result, things like that.
No, yeah, for sure. I definitely see it amongst other agents, but I would say, like, when I first started in the industry, like, I would be excited about the policy itself. So it's like I was trying to sell like what was in the box, right? Like I was trying to sell the policy, not the results of like what the client wanted, you know. So I've learned through my journey of how to sell and how to actually help the client versus the technicalities of the policy. Like, yes, they matter, but ultimately the client cares about how the policy will protect them, or, you know, at least help them while they're living too.
Yeah, and I think coming from us, right? Because you know, we're us, our partnership with Chris and Life 180, like we're really big on product knowledge. We're really big on you know, actually training agents how these products work. Because like I said, we need to make sure the box is going to work, right? You know, getting back to like the IUL, it's being sold as something it's not. And so we need that knowledge to make sure that we're not selling a box that isn't going to actually print out the picture that we're painting for them, right?
Yep.
And so I think, you know, coming from us, it's interesting because the product knowledge is important. But when you're talking to the client, how many times, and I'm guilty of this too, by the way, I've gotten too excited where I'm talking about the details and maybe it's like over the client's head.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I've done it. And I've kind of caught myself. I have to like step back and, okay, let's like keep it simple again, right? But it's like, imagine like talking to the client about a printer and like diving into like, hey, this little chip in the computer does this, right? And it's like the client doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say this, it's your responsibility as an agent to make sure that right chip is in that box, right? And likewise, make sure that the result or the outcome that you're looking to help that client achieve is actually what they're going to achieve, right? And unfortunately, that's a big mess in the industry too, is because you have a lot of people selling products misrepresenting, in particular, like IULs, annuities.
Mhm.
Anything like that has the index approach to it, where the contract is kind of there's wiggle room for the insurance company. Keep in mind, we sell annuities, so it's going to get the job done. But what I'm saying is the misrepresentation is the overpromised returns, on those kind of products. Is a fixed index annuity going to get the job done and protect the money and still get some growth? Yes, 100% every single time, which is why I sell them. But I think sometimes, the expectations might be between 4 and 10%, but some of these illustrations are showing, 15, 17, 20%, even more. They're just unrealistic. And then what happens is these agents are selling on these unrealistic expectations. And in a sense, they're holding that paper up and like, I can sell this, right? Because it's like 17%, but you're selling something that's not real.
Right.
Right. And so, but you can still sell them something that's real, just with realistic expectations, right? Actually helping them. Um, any comments on that, Marissa?
No, I completely agree with exactly what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah. And I think the same for recruiting, right? How many times you and I are in insurance agents? Well, I got kicked out of that group because I'm not following the program, right? Falling in line. But how many in different groups have you seen like, oh, like what about this company versus this company?
Oh,
Or
all the
like
time.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I would say like that's the wrong question. Um, it's like, who's your mentor?
Right.
Right. And I think you got to focus on finding a mentor first. Um, the truth is you can succeed in any company, right? Do some companies make it easier than others? Yes, right. If you're
Yeah.
starting at a 30% compensation, it's going to be harder to succeed than somebody starting at a 60% compensation.
Right.
100%, right? Because you have to do twice as much work to make the income. You have to do twice as much work to like work your way out of a job. Um, Obviously, there's successful people in every company. So can you make it? Absolutely. Um, but the question is, who's your mentor? Because like I said, you can be successful in any company. That doesn't matter. They're a contract provider, right? It doesn't matter as much as who's teaching you.
Exactly.
And there's people that are successful that are not great teachers, or people that are successful that don't have the time to teach you. So make sure you find somebody that can actually invest in you. But back to recruiting, it's kind of the same thing. Would you agree, Marissa? Like, it's not about, oh, well, look at our contract level, look at our comp plan on paper. It's like, hey, this is the life you want. Do
Yeah.
you want this? Right. And
Yeah.
that's why that right there is why I think this is probably one of the best sales training, best recruiting training that you're ever going to find. Um, and some people might miss it just watching it, but I really wanted to break this down with you because um, this is something I feel like you can't miss this. This is it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And no matter how many times you rewatch it, you kind of pick up something different every time. Even though I feel like the message is really clear, I don't know. I've watched this several times, and each time there's just like a point that's more magnified than the rest. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree. I think mentorship is like the one important thing that you could possibly look for in the industry. Um, like you're saying, it doesn't matter about the comp, or I mean, comp matters, but what good is comp if you have no mentorship, right? Um, so mentorship is like the number one thing to look for sure.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, we can hold the picture up, but the box still has to be able to produce that picture.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. It does have to be able to
Exactly.
produce that picture. So I think that's an important factor. It's not that the box doesn't matter,
Right.
it's that the result matters. So the box does have to produce that result, the picture. Um, but like really, who cares what's in the box?
Right.
Like nobody cares as long as it produces, right? So
Exactly.
That's kind of the theme there. Let's get into it more.
And that's where Apple's got to get back to. And, you know, I'm sorry that Open Doc's a casualty along the way, and I readily admit there are many things in life that I don't have the faintest idea what I'm talking about. So I apologize for that too. But there's a whole lot of people working super, super hard right now at Apple. You know, Avi, John, Garino, Fred, I mean, the whole team is working, burning the midnight oil, trying to, and people, you know, hundreds of people below them, to execute on some of these things, and they're doing their best. And I think that what we need to do, and some mistakes will be made, by the way. Some mistakes will be made along the way. That's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes, we'll fix them. And I think what we need to do is support that team going through this very important stage as they work their butts off. They're all getting calls, being offered 3 times as much money to go do this, do that. The valley's hot. None of them are leaving. And I think we need to support them and see them through this and write some damn good applications to support Apple out in the market. That's my own point of view. Mistakes will be made. Some people will be pissed off. Some people will not know what they're talking about. But I think it is so much better than where things were not very long ago. And I think we're going to get there.
What was your take on that last part there? Talking about the team and mistakes.
Yeah, the mistakes part kind of gave me comfort, honestly, as like an entrepreneur. Because I'm a perfectionist. I don't want to make mistakes. Like, that's who I am. So being an entrepreneur and going against the grain of who I am, sometimes that gets to me emotionally, especially as a woman. But yeah, mistakes are good. Like, you can instantly correct yourself. Like, you made a mistake. Okay, now I know not to do that. And the sooner you make mistakes, the better, because then you're kind of like failing forward. You're learning as you're progressing. So yeah, I totally agree with his comment about mistakes. And the team too. I think he was right about respecting the people who really put their their time, their effort, their energy into the world evolving, right? Because this was really more of a big movement than it was. I mean, it still was a big movement back then, but I don't think people really saw, the people who were watching from the sidelines really understood the change that was occurring in front of their eyes. So I'm glad that he took a stand and was like, yeah, we're not perfect, but respect what we're doing,
Yeah.
So I did like that a lot.
Yeah. And I think if you pay attention to Apple's marketing strategies, like they're big on that, right? That it's not about the computer, it's not about the iPhone, or it's about change, right? It's about like one of their commercials has like a bunch of people from the past, like leaders, right? And it talks about like, they won't be ignored.
Yeah.
They're trailblazers, right? And so
Right.
yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to mistakes, one thing I've learned is mistakes are the most data-rich information you can get on what adjustments and changes you need to make as an entrepreneur in your business. And so when you start to understand that, you start to change your relationship with failure. You start to look at it as a good thing, right? It's like, hey, I learned how not to do it. I learned, like, I got the data I need to make changes, right? To make adjustments. That way I can get better.
Right.
Right. And I think in our industry, especially, like, nobody, and I heard this a week ago, like, nobody fires you. Like,
Right. Yeah.
there's a high failure rate in this industry, but it's just because people quit,
Yeah.
or because people never were willing to make mistakes, right? They never actually figured this business out. And so, yeah, it's just like changing your relationship with certain things, and failure is one of them. I think fear is another one of them. I think people say, fear's not real. Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a great clip it was in one of the Batman movies, where he's climbing out of the pit, and the guy says, well, how do you expect to run faster than possible, jump higher than possible without the most powerful emotion on the planet, which is fear? And so what he's talking about is you need the fear, you want to use it. And a lot of people, they let fear cripple them, right? But it's not that fear is not real, but it's like, hey, let's embrace that it is real, and let's change our relationship with it so we can use it to our advantage.
Right.
And like I said, same thing with failure, right? And so, I think that's another big thing that it takes time to learn that.
Mhm.
But I don't know about you, Marissa. I can kind of share my story here. Is when I first started in the industry, it was hard, right? I was learning something for the first time. I was super hungry, right?
Mhm.
So I did like what my mentor told me to do. I was super coachable.
Mhm.
He told me go talk to them, like, okay, make this call. Okay. So I did all the things I was supposed to do. But I wasn't confident. Like when I got in business for myself, I had been an employee for 15 years, and I didn't know if I can get there, but I had faith that my mentor could teach me and get me there.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember I used to have like a lot of self-doubt, a lot of negative talk. Um, but one thing I've learned is through the failures and through getting back up again, and like nothing actually like knocked me out. I want to say it was about a year and a half in, maybe even 2 years in. And I remember I was leaving an appointment. I didn't close the appointment. I was driving back home. I think I had two appointments back to back, and I didn't close either one. But I remember driving back home, and like it clicked. And what I mean by it clicked was the confidence was there, and it was going to be there forever. It's been there ever since. And what I mean by that was the confidence of like you deserve to win.
Right.
Like you were willing to go out and fail. You were willing to take the risk. You were willing to, fight for your daughter. You were willing to I did. I left my job, what most people would say prematurely, right? And burn the bridges. And I was willing to make that leap of faith. And every time I failed, I got back up, and nothing actually stopped me. And it got to a point where it's like, man, like I became so confident in myself that it's like I deserve to win. Not only am I going to win, but I deserve it. And
Exactly.
um, I don't, I don't know. I like to share that because I feel like that's kind of a turning point in a lot of people's careers when their mentality changes to I think I can win, or maybe I can do this, to like it's going to happen and I deserve it.
Yeah, that's funny that you bring that up because I'm like, I think I'm officially 2 years in now. And I kind of feel that way now, like literally like since May, I would say, just being transparent. I feel like, um, I had to make a pivot within the business. And then after, like now that I'm kind of comfortable into all the new techniques and the new knowledge and everything going on, yeah, I kind of feel that exact thing right now where I have the confidence where I'm going to succeed in this business. But you're right. You start off at first, you're like, oh, I don't know. And you go through some things. Um, and yeah, eventually you just get to that point where it's like, this is what I do and I'm going to succeed. So yeah.
Yeah. And if anybody's watching this and they're in that kind of that valley of like, I don't know, and I'll say this, just keep going. Um, if you have something worth fighting for, keep going. Right. And I think that's another thing. You get clear on what you're fighting for, get clear on why you're doing this.
Mhm.
Because it will just naturally happen. You'll be able to look back and you'll look at all your failures and you'll be like, none of those killed me, right? Like I'm still standing here, I'm still moving forward, I'm better than ever before. Because you learn through each one of those and you do improve as you go. Um, yeah, just fight it out to that point. And once you get to that point, um, you it's like a foregone conclusion at that point that hey, I'm gonna make this right. Like, and then I'm
Yeah.
starting to figure it out. Like I got this. So um, yeah, I would encourage you to give it a true shot, get there. Um, and then yeah, focus like that. The reason we share this video is um, focus on the client. You know, that's something that we're really big on, is actually focusing on the client, do what's right by your client. Even if that's a smaller commission, you know, it might take from your pocket sometimes in the beginning. But in the long run, right, your clients are going to love you because you did what was right for them, and you created the best policy for them and put them in the best situation, and then they're going to send you referrals. So in the long run, it's not going to cost you anything. It's gonna you know, help you have a thriving business. But yeah, focus on what you can do for people, and that's what I would say. And I hope that's what you guys got out of this video, if nothing else. Any final thoughts, Marissa?
No, well, maybe I do want to add just the not giving up part, because I think that's what keeps me going, is looking back. I may not be where I want to be right now, but I'm in the process of it, right? So not giving up and always looking back from where you came from just keeps you going too. So that helps me stay on track.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, I appreciate you hopping on with me, Marissa. No, we're definitely going to continue to do these. And yeah, if you guys have anything that you guys would want us to cover or like us to cover, yeah, feel free to reach out. Feel free to leave a comment. You know, like and subscribe to the channel for more videos, and we'll see you next time.